You probably already read the title of this thing now.
I'm so curious.
So
I like the cover photo of it too.
so for those listening, it's like an old GMC 1500 truck we're looking at, and like terrible font stuff. And it basically says a water burning hybrid 96 V8 350, 26 miles per gallon. The title of the video is Vacuum Pressure Hydrogen Fuel Cell Defeats High Gas Prices Using Hydrogen from H2O. This was filmed in 2011, but I guess this is more relevant now than ever with gas prices and stuff. So
someone better be doing this right now.
That being said, the beginning of this video starts with "Do not try to build this." We'll turn the audio on in a second. Here you go. Disclaimer: the information you're about to view is for information only. Do not attempt to build anything you see here. Weird way to start a tutorial.
Here's how to build it.
You can be killed by whatever that is, fuel explosions. So that's fun. But anyway, so this guy.
Okay.
So what this is doing, essentially, he's creating hydrogen within his engine bay. He sets up a system. We'll go through it now in a second. We'll play the audio and then pause and talk.
Is that a Vlasic pickle jar?
It's so much worse than that, dude.
Okay.
Just wait. So this guy's going to go through the whole step, but basically that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to create a hydrogen source that's going to augment fuel in his engine so that it's not using as much fuel. So therefore it's more efficient. That's what he's ultimately looking to do. So we'll watch this video. Just reach over and pause it or whatever whenever you want to get to a point. For those listening, you definitely want to watch this. We'll play pieces of this in here. And yeah,
making fuel from water is extremely easy. Much more easy than they would like you to believe.
It's a conspiracy.
This is just water, electricity, and some baking soda at about 29 amps. We found that we can inject this in the state of vacuum into our engine and double our mileage under certain circumstances. Now, I'm running a V8 350 and have been for over 30,000 miles. It all starts with the wiring. You get some number 10 gauge wire.
Okay, disclaimer, do not try to do this. This is a very, very bad idea. This is for entertainment purposes only. There's a lot of mix between home electrical and auto electrical stuff about to happen.
I see that.
And kitchen pieces. So
anyway, no.
So reach over and pause whenever you want to. We'll talk about it.
Conductor and run it to a switch, which you put under the dash.
Just a light switch. No. This guy should not be dealing with explosives.
This is such a bad idea.
So where in Alabama was this done?
20-volt light switch, which is rated at about 20 amps at 125 volts. I'm only running at about
he's not.
So he's thinking about voltage and stuff and all that.
Not worn out or burned up yet, where it seems to work flawlessly. This is the ground wire that I connect to my frame. If my battery was over here, I would have put it to my battery just for convenience. Now I'm going to set the jug right here next to the master cylinder. I just have
jug.
Red flag.
Room for a gallon jug. This is the vacuum line that goes to your carburetor. This is the master cylinder.
Oh, is this carbureted?
Your brakes, controls your braking. So we're going to take advantage of the vacuum pressure of the engine right here where it's strongest.
Shouldn't you not borrow that from the brakes?
16 inches or more of vacuum at certain times. And we're going to set a pad here.
Did he mean 16 pounds?
What did he say?
16 inches of vacuum.
No, there's inches like I don't know, in mercury, like inches of mercury for pressure and stuff. Like pressure is measured in like inches of mercury or whatever.
Well, this guy's smarter than me as far as this goes. So
you just wait. This is all I will say. This is like scientifically pretty genius to like do something like this. What you're about to see, I think the long-term effects. We'll get to it in a minute. I'll pause later with something. I realize that pausing and playing this is going to make editing this a bear, but we're gonna figure it out. But yeah, look at. I mean, we've got the home wire.
That's like Romex right there.
Yeah. And split out and going into this. But anyway, keep cruising here. Yeah. He is tapping in, for those again listening. He's talking about tapping into the vacuum line that runs from the carburetor to the brake booster. And there's a T there. So he's tapping into that to create a vacuum input source for this. But yeah, I'll keep going. It gets clearer in a sec. All of a sudden you'll understand what he's doing. And you're like, wait, what?
And I've already added some baking soda to it as an electrolyte. Now this is a very fancy cell element design.
Oops, you said fancy.
Don't be disillusioned by how fancy this looks, because very simply you can get 3 faceplates.
It's got a sense of humor, huh?
High-grade stainless.
I can't tell if that's what's happening.
Teflon, nuts and bolts, and for about $5, you can make this. You have notched it for the wires. Put the positive in the middle, put the negatives on the outside, and boom, you've got it. I've just made a more advanced version. You run the wires through the lid like this. I'm going to install this.
The music
down
is
here.
so good.
I'm going to seal this up. I'm going to show you how this thing produces gas.
This part gets super interesting.
This is the positive wire which I run to the alternator. I've installed a 30 amp auto reset fuse on both sides, positive and negative. So I have redundant fuse protection.
You say what you will, but he's
overload. And the fuel cell will occasionally pull too much power. We want it to automatically shut off. We connect to the alternator because we have a lot more magnetic field right there, much more energy available than connecting it to the battery.
I think he means voltage, not electric field. But so the setup right now, he's got this, I forget what he calls it, the plates that are dropped into this water. Mm-hmm. Baking soda's in the water as an electrolyte. So essentially what he's going to do is he's going to apply voltage to it, and don't know what the frick is happening chemically, but he's going to apply voltage. It's going to start bubbling. And what it's doing is it's bubbling and rising hydrogen to the top of this canister. So it's extracting the hydrogen from the water, essentially. So that's what he's set up here.
I highly recommend that you connect it exactly as you see in this fashion.
Don't do that. Don't do that, probably.
Exactly as we see?
Yeah, that's pretty. Don't do this again.
10 gauge Romex and all from Home Depot.
Jug. It's just another
and yellow wire nuts.
Has a particular way of plumbing. One long hose which goes to the fuel cell, the other hose barely in the jug which goes to the vacuum system of the engine. You put it down in the jug, and the overflow is automatically sucked back up into the other fuel cell. We've used poster putty, which is liquid Teflon.
What is it?
Poster putty.
As a sealant, it is the most recyclable thing you can use. You can use it over and over and over. It's poster putty is the brand name for it. Don't endorse any products, but I don't have any choice. It's really the best thing you can use. Plastic hoses is what we use on our vacuum pressure fuel cell. It is part of the thermodynamic.
Okay, so while he's wrapping this up here, so he's running hoses to an outside reservoir. So essentially the thought is as this bubbles and it throws water into here, there's going to be water that's sent to the bottom of that, but he doesn't want to suck water into his engine. So he's got another at the top, so it'll just pull the gas out. The water will get deposited at the bottom. So he's safeguarding his engine a little bit.
Over 30,000 miles running on the vacuum pressure fuel cell so far, and my engine performs incredibly well. It's a little tacky at times. When it gets hot, it will really seal well.
So here he'll show it now.
This shows you some of the production in the vacuum state.
Wow. It's like a jacuzzi, like it's instant bubbles and stuff.
Gas. It's enough to actually cool the water. There's 25 amps right now flowing through there, and we want to run it as close to 30 amps as possible.
So is this while the engine is running right now?
Tremendous amount of gas.
I think he's just doing it while it's off right now.
Even more hydrogen and oxygen gas as the engine gets going. The RPMs are high, and the magnetic field is coming off of that alternator. Baking soda, Arm & Hammer, highly recommend it. It's the only one that won't foam up. Cheap stuff, you'll end up with foaming in the water, and you don't want foamy water.
It's so instantaneous. It's very interesting, isn't it?
It's going to have some nasty buildup eventually, but don't worry. It's not a problem in the vacuum pressure fuel cell. The extra dryer jar in front takes care of anything that would fly into the engine. It's a very interesting system and has been used.
It makes me so nervous that he's playing with sparks and stuff right on the top where he's generating a ton of hydrogen and stuff too, because that is a super flammable gas.
Used for many, many miles. A lot of people sell this for hundreds of dollars. You can build it yourself for
hundreds of dollars.
$55 in parts.
I would expect to pay much more for that.
I would want to pay
something
much more
that
for
grenades could potentially. Yeah, it is running.
It's able to handle the current. It will pull about 29 amps, so you have to make sure that your alternator's in good condition.
This part.
When you get this thing hooked up right, you should see water coming out of your exhaust. As it gets going, the amount of water coming out could be tremendous, depending on your engine. If you have any carbon buildup or nasty stuff in your engine, it will generally blow out right onto the ground in front of your eyes, steam cleaning the engine.
So that would be very bad because that's how you rust everything in your engine if you steam clean it. So I don't think that's actually what's happening. I mean, I would wonder what the long-term effects are because
I'm sure
a byproduct,
it's a different type of breakup and whatever
Right, exactly. Because a byproduct of like the hydrogen cells that we were looking at before. Yeah,
definitely forgot we were filming a podcast right now. I got so into that video.
I hope this is interesting to watch. We might have to chop through
I just got I think that's a good thing. I got totally zoned in and I realized I was like slouching over here just like staring into this. So welcome back, guys.
So anyway, that's pretty much the end of this video. He doesn't really go much more into this.
That's it? Oh, I thought we were going somewhere.
No, he just talks about steam cleaning it.
Do you? We? Who's we? So I have a question. Few
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting though? Super
It's just crazy. I know. I was sucked in even just now too. I was like
as easy as it is to like make fun of him and that and like the whole scenario of all this happening, even just the fact that it's like a 96 GM, like it would make a little more sense to do something like this. Obviously it makes more sense to do it. It does make sense to do it in a truck where it's spending a lot of gas anyways.
Right.
But like say you take a Corolla or whatever that already gets decent gas mileage and you bump this in to get it to like, you get something to like 60, 80 miles a gallon, something like that. That'd be pretty awesome.
Isn't that neat?
So if this works, why is it not a thing? And don't use his canned response because they don't want us to. Like they don't want you to know about this hydrogen fuel cell. Save your gasoline.
Yeah, it's big. It's big oil. They don't
big
want you
oil doesn't want us to know.
I wonder if I'm really concerned about the long term. Like, okay, a Chevy 350. I think there's been like funny videos and stuff of people like throwing gravel in those and like starving them of oil for the fun of it. Like, I think that motor will run like on a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's the best longevity test because I would imagine you're going to be rusting if a byproduct. This is what I don't know because you're like hydrogen cell engines, or hydrogen cell vehicles rather, like that Toyota that we looked at a few weeks ago. That one, the byproduct is water because of the chemical reaction that it's doing with hydrogen and the air, and it reacts and that becomes water, and that reaction, that's what forms the electricity that goes in the battery that goes everywhere. This is different. We're just burning hydrogen, so you're just like you're literally using the vacuum system unregulated, which you can test that now. You could pull a vacuum line off any car, off my WRX, off your Audi, and if you sprayed starter fluid in it, your engine will rev because it's getting extra fuel that it didn't know. It'll try to cut and fix it, but it'll rev. So all he's doing is using a constant vacuum source from his engine that's running to the brakes and just happens to be another, sucking into the intake. And he's using that to suck from that second reservoir any hydrogen gas that's produced in the first from the whole electrolyte stimulation thing. But I would imagine through some, like, I don't know what the byproduct of burning hydrogen is. It's not water. I don't really know why water is being spit out of his tailpipe like that. That seems alarming.
Pretty typical of an engine. Like there is moisture or whatever that gets kicked out.
I hope it's not coming from this though, because if it is, that would be why this doesn't exist. Like if you're sucking it, just making a nice rusty line on the whole inside of your engine.
The 350 is you're right, probably going to just still run forever with that. Yeah. So here's a question I have though. Yeah. Is it truly running more efficiently because he's figured out a way that he's got a Mount Olive's jar and a Vlasic jar. Interesting. Sorry, I just noticed that. This guy really likes pickles. Is it truly making it more efficient because it's actually burning hydrogen as a fuel source at the same time as typical gasolina? Or is he just cooling his motor a little bit and allowing it to be more efficient? Because, there's like you can get like a meth kit for your car where it sprays in the intake and it cools it down. There's things you can do with water in that respect too.
It's a good question.
So, like I just wonder if a carbureted 350, I mean, you could probably put a bunch of stuff in there that would make it run a little bit more efficiently. You could change out the air filter or tune the carb a little bit different and it would run a little bit more efficiently. So I wonder if maybe it was running a little bit rich and now you cooled it down and diluted the mixture a little bit and now it's running a little bit. It's running a little cleaner. Yeah. So I don't know. I have a lot of questions.
I know cooling it because that would essentially, like, people do that for horsepower numbers, so that gives it more power. So then therefore it would make it a little bit more efficient. Yep. But I don't know. It seemed interesting because the concept makes sense. So if it's flammable and you're not just drowning your engine in it, like I think the burn temperature is different. Obviously the combustion point, the burn temperature and everything would be different for hydrogen than it would for gasoline.
Yeah. It's interesting to, in theory, if it's siphoning a little bit of it into there. Right. So
it's super crazy. Don't try this, please.
Please don't try this.
It actually, like, apart from just joking and people having to say that, it is very, very dangerous. Hydrogen gas is crazy flammable.
Regardless of so if you get that far, that's dangerous. Right. Like you're gonna, especially using your outlet or switches from inside your house.
You could not only damage your car greatly, but you could injure or kill yourself or somebody else doing this. Because if it's on the road and it sparks and it is an explosion, if it just catches your engine on fire, you're facing a lot of stuff that insurance wouldn't cover. So don't recommend doing this at all. It is a very interesting, maybe supplemental thing for efficiency in engines. Maybe it's something that, an auto manufacturer.
Let's let them figure it out.